Hi and good evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Shakil 5858. I am Buddham. Now the latest headlines from world channels and news agencies.
Purported leak.
Always free, always entertaining. South Korea's president arrested after an hours-long standoff with police. Fellow fighters believe Australian man Oscar Jenkins was killed shortly after his capture in Ukraine. Train chaos in Sydney as industrial action sparks major delays and cancellations. And Jordan Thompson loses in his second round men's clash at the Australian Open. Hello, welcome to ABC News. I'm Lorna Dunkley.
Tonight, breaking news. Authorities in Los Angeles at this hour warning of life-threatening winds starting in the overnight hours tonight. 12 million people now under extreme fire risk in LA. Also, the tense moments on Capitol Hill, and you'll see it. And Caitlin Clark's alleged stalker in court, the bizarre outburst, what he told the judge. First tonight, red flag warnings overnight for LA and Ventura counties. Santa Ana winds gusting up to 70 miles per hour, starting in the middle of the night and expected to continue right through tomorrow. Also, the new fire overnight, 3 major fires now burning. Our team across the fire zone in Ginger Z standing by, and the winds now coming tonight. How long they last. Also tonight, this dangerous and brutal cold from Minnesota all the way to the East Coast. It'll feel like 9 below in Chicago, and what's coming across the Northeast tomorrow. The tense questioning on the Hill. President-elect Trump's pick for Defense Secretary, former Fox host Pete Hegseth, grilled during his Senate confirmation hearing, pressed on what he has said about women in the military, on allegations of infidelity, alcohol abuse, and financial mismanagement. How Hegseth responded today, and does he have the support he needs tonight? Less than a week before President-elect Donald Trump takes office, the Justice Department tonight releasing Jack Smith's final report on Trump and January 6th. Smith saying he believes there was enough evidence to convict Trump, but that voters re-elected him to the White House instead. The developing headline at this hour, the American hostages, and will there be a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, and is it close? Ian Pannell and what he's learning right now. Back here in the U.S., that outburst in court with Caitlin Clark's alleged stalker said to the judge what he's accused of doing. Princess Catherine's new message about her cancer battle, declaring she's in remission. The first time she has used that word. And America Strong tonight, the firefighters and what they have found buried in the ash. There were tears, and this is really something.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Tonight, the fiery confirmation hearing. President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Defense Secretary grilled on Capitol Hill. Pete Hegseth, now the first Trump cabinet pick on the hot seat before the Senate. The Army National Guard veteran and former Fox News host clashing with Democrats, claiming he's the victim of a smear campaign. Amid allegations of sexual assault and excessive drinking, and what he now says about women in the military after stating in the past they shouldn't serve in combat. Also tonight, the new fire breaking out. The Los Angeles area now under a particularly dangerous red flag warning for strong winds. Crews still battling the biggest infernos, and what's being learned about what sparked them. The final special counsel report released on Donald Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election. Our nightly news exclusive, Inside Iran, my one-on-one conversation with the Iranian president. We asked him directly, did Iran plan to assassinate President-elect Trump, and will it try in the future? Are you willing to promise that there will be no attempt on the life of Donald Trump? How he answered that question and his reaction to the possible ceasefire between Israel and Iran-backed Hamas. And Princess Kate, the good news she's announcing about her battle with cancer.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
as Secretary of Defense if you drink on the job.
Once you have babies, you therefore are no longer able to be lethal?
I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared.
President-elect Donald Trump's pick to lead the Defense Department faces tough questions from Democratic senators.
I'm not a perfect person.
A critical 24 hours for California, with millions under extreme fire weather alerts.
Firefighters have never seen wind so fierce.
And in tonight's Eye on America, the long road to rebuilding, with homeowners insurance in question.
Did they give a reason why?
It's the fire hazard.
The CBS Evening News starts now.
Good evening, I'm Amna Nabaz.
And I'm Jeff Bennett. On the NewsHour tonight, surging winds fuel the Los Angeles wildfires that have been blazing for a full week. What the scope of destruction means for homeowners and home insurance.
Lawmakers grill Secretary of Defense nominee Pete Hegseth on his opposition to women in combat roles and accusations of financial mismanagement and sexual misconduct.
It was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared.
I don't think completely cleared is accurate.
In his final report, Special Counsel Jack Smith says Donald Trump would have been convicted for election subversion had he not been reelected.
So she's overnight going to become an icon of MAGA and the American right. She's overnight going to become an icon of MAGA and the American right. She's probably going to make a lot of money off of it. So I get why she did it.
I say.
I mean, right? It's country music. I think
I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't do it, even though I
You
can't
would not sing?
No, I would not. I would not normalize him. And she says, I love our country. How do you love your country and support and normalize somebody who was a convicted felon who really wants to destroy the country, in my opinion? I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon.
If I believe I have the right to make up my mind to go perform someplace, I believe they have the same right.
Of course.
And so I have to, I have to support. Doesn't mean I'm particularly interested in what I won't be watching.
They can't help themselves. Here with Reaction, author of the children's book, God's Masterpiece, broadcaster Elizabeth Hasselbeck is with us. Don't you miss sitting at that table? You've got to, deep down, you must really miss that noise. You've got to miss it.
I mean, deep down, I'm missing out. I'm just thankful to be here with you. This is safe territory, Sean. Although I would have loved to have been at that table today. They have refused to put anyone there who has a lick of sense on most days. But today, when those comments got passed around, even Whoopi Goldberg could not agree with the outlandish remark of Joy Behar. I mean, Joy Behar wants us to, in the name of, by the way, liberal tolerance at its best, right? This is what we're seeing. She wants us to believe that Carrie Underwood, who won American Idol by American votes, who had an album and tour called All American Girl, who actually has spent more time on USO tours serving and helping and donating money to our nation's finest, our military, their families, and our veterans, is about to perform America the Beautiful at the historic event of the inauguration of the President of the United States of America, and that she's un-American for doing so. I mean, it's so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
They're living, it's as though the election never stopped for them.
On this Tuesday night, Mark Carney teases his Liberal leadership bid as the former Bank of Canada governor tries to set himself apart.
You sneaky, you're running as an outsider. I am an outsider.
Who else is bowing out and why? Power in numbers, how Canadian energy groups are joining forces to take on the U.S. tariff threat. Ready to battle why crews in California say they're more prepared to fight new wildfires. Plus, see the tearful reunions between lost pets and their owners. You're alive! You're alive! And a different kind of Captain Highliner, one daredevil's unprecedented feat.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening.
these are our top stories. Qatar's foreign ministry says Israel and Hamas are at their closest point yet to a ceasefire deal. Qatar has been mediating talks between the two sides that would see the release of Israeli hostages and bring respite to the people of Gaza. Mediators say major issues blocking a deal have been addressed, and negotiators are working out final details. Germany's defense minister has promised Ukraine that Berlin's military support will not end regardless of who wins next month's German elections. In Kyiv, Boris Pistorius told Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that Germany will keep backing Ukraine's defense against Russia. Earlier, Pistorius met with other European NATO allies to send what he called a clear signal of support for Ukraine before U.S. President-elect Donald Trump takes office. NATO leaders from across the Baltic region have agreed to a new mission after several incidents of suspected Russian sabotage. NATO will deploy frigates, patrol aircraft, and naval drones to protect underwater infrastructure, including internet cables. This is DW News from Berlin. You'll find more news on our website at dw.com.
John Zaracostas and I report from Geneva for France 24 News on major developments from UN peace talks, global health and emergencies, and Swiss politics and finance.
John Zaracostas, one of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.
Hello, you're watching Daybreak on France 24. I'm Paris Garland. It's good to have you with us. Here's a look at our headlines. Mediators are making a final push to seal a Gaza truce and hostage release deal, with reports Hamas has accepted a draft agreement. We'll get the latest from our correspondent, Noga Tarnakovsky. Impeached South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has been arrested over his failed martial law bid as hundreds of anti-graft investigators and police raided his residence. Firefighters in California are bracing for powerful winds overnight, and while they're not expected to be as strong as last week, they could still carry fire-sparking embers for miles. Also coming up in the press review, Leo McGuinn takes a look at the mass exodus of so-called TikTok refugees who are flocking to another Chinese app, Red Note, ahead of a federal ban. There are reports Hamas has
Hello, watching Sky News. I'm Nick Creation. Here are the headlines. A distraction from the work of the government. The latest of Sir Keir Starmer's senior ministers to be forced from her post. The Prime Minister says he accepts Tulip Siddique's resignation with sadness over allegations that she benefited from family links to Bangladesh's former ruling party. Also holding out hope for their loved ones to finally be freed, we hear from Israel and Gaza over the ceasefire seemingly closer than ever. President-elect Trump's controversial choice for Defense Secretary takes on his critics over allegations of excessive drinking and sexual misconduct. The City of Los Angeles fire chief warns of new life-threatening and destructive. We hear one woman's heartbreak over what she has lost.
So that's it. It's just, that's it, nothing. Okay. Oh my God.
Thank you so much. She was finished. Crack on your mental health. Simple daily tasks. And still like a real child.
And the Royal Princess in remission as Kate returns to the NHS hospital where she received her cancer care. Hello, good morning. Sir Keir Starmer has already lost.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christie's. Tonight,
every penny we get will be used to help victims and survivors to be heard and to fight for justice in any way that we can. And I give you my word for that.
Thank you very much, everybody. We have now raised more than 250 grand, actually, for the Maggie Oliver Foundation to show that the victims of rape gangs, that you really care about them. You can go to gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs now to donate. We're going to be hearing from a brave survivor later in the show. In other news... Two-thirds of illegal immigrants with ankle tags have cut them off and they're now on the run. Is detention the only answer? Also,
is the Hamlet of our time. They promised the electorate much while pouring the poison into their ear. To go or not to go, that is now a question.
Rachel Reeves there laughing as she makes you poorer.
I invite you all to join this government of service.
Oh yeah, government of service. Starmer's anti-corruption minister has resigned amid a massive corruption row. Plus,
they're spending how many millions a day on hotels? Put it into the NHS.
We've got incest nurses and now we've got corridor nurses. What on earth is going on at the NHS? And
quick as you can.
Good lad. British pub culture is under threat. You could now be banned from talking about immigration, trans, or even cracking an inappropriate joke. On my panel tonight, it's columnist and broadcaster Esther Krakow, GB News superstar Alex Armstrong, and journalist Jonathan Liss. Oh, and can you tell me, please, what's going on here? Get ready, Britain. Here we go.
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong. 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Rani Samtani. At this hour, South Korea's impeached leader Yoon Suk-yeol becomes the country's first sitting president to be arrested. The defiant leader says he is complying with investigators to avoid bloodshed. Indian police detained 44 men accused of raping a teenager in the state of Kerala. The abuse reportedly took place over a period of 5 years. And California struggles to contain raging wildfires as powerful winds threaten to undo containment efforts. An additional 84,000 people could be forced to evacuate. South Korean investigators have arrested impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol nearly a month and a half since his short-lived martial law decree plunged the country into political turmoil. He is the country's first sitting president to be arrested. Mr. Yoon's presidential motorcade left his heavily fortified residence shortly after a joint team of anti-graft officials and the police executed the detention warrant. He is now at the Corruption Investigation Office, or the CIO, which is probing insurrection accusations against him. Officials have reportedly begun questioning him. In a pre-recorded video message, the suspended leader alleged that the law in the country had collapsed and that he was submitting himself for questioning to avoid any violence. More than 3,000 police officers marched onto his residence to arrest him early this morning.
불미스러운 유혈 사태를 막기 위해서 일단 불법 수사이긴 하지만 공수처 출석에 응하기로 했습니다. 그러나 제가 이 공수처의 수사를 인정하는 것은 아닙니다.
Hundreds of pro- and anti-Yoon protesters gathered near the president's hillside villa this morning. There were scuffles between his supporters and the police. Inside, Mr. Yoon's lawyers tried to persuade investigators not to execute the detention warrant, saying the president would voluntarily appear for questioning. But the agency declined. Yonhap News says the opposition Democratic Party called Mr. Yoon's arrest the first step to restore democracy. CNA's Grace Shin has been watching this situation very closely, and she joins us now. Grace, Mr. Yoon is currently being questioned by authorities. How long could this process take?
Ronnie, it seems to be quite...
Rescuers continue their operations to bring out survivors among hundreds of miners who were working illegally in an abandoned shaft and have been trapped for months. Police said at least 24 bodies and 37 survivors have been brought out of the gold mine since Friday.
Yes, we did face some challenges yesterday in the beginning, but they are normal operational challenges in setting up our machines and equipment. Unfortunately, every rescue site is differently, and it brings those challenges with. It's a dangerous operation and high risk of where we operate. We're operating in front, right on the edge of an open hole that can go down approximately 2.6 kilometers. We did start later than what we anticipated yesterday, but we pushed up until 7 last night. We gave ourselves a target to pull out 35 people, of which we have achieved. This morning, we started at 6 o'clock. We will push down to about 10 tonight.
Authorities say miners are able to come out and are refusing, but has been disputed by right groups and activists.
Ever since we started getting briefings and then ended up coming here physical, I've not met one person, either locally or anywhere, who said from the time the first illegal miner went down, I was here counting the first miner up to what has happened even today, even on our first visit, even on when Operation Valumkoti was launched. Up to today, no one has stood before us.
Civic groups want a court case to force authorities to allow food, water and medicine to be sent down to the miners. Some miners have emerged in the last 2 months and have been arrested.
Some Israeli soldiers have begun speaking out against the brutal 15-month conflict in Gaza and are refusing to serve, saying they saw or did things that cross ethical lines. Some 200 soldiers signed a letter saying they'd stop fighting if the government didn't secure a ceasefire.
Now, when Israel is saying that it's burning down a house that is inflicting destruction due to military causes, what it's really saying is trying to just explain itself. It has absolutely no idea why soldiers in the field are doing things. Soldiers in the field have a lot of freedom of act. They can do pretty much whatever they want and they won't be accountable. So when my commander told me to burn down a house, he didn't do it because he believed that this was used for terror or something like that. He did it because he just was apathetic towards the lives of Palestinians.
The group behind the refusal letter, Soldiers for the Hostage, is trying to garner momentum, holding an event earlier this month in Tel Aviv and gathering more signatures.
Soldiers who served during this war signed a letter saying we're not gonna play along with this game anymore. Enough is enough. Enough manipulation, political manipulation of this war. We're not going to be pawns in your war anymore, and we're raising our voice. We're not calling we appreciate soldiers. We appreciate the IDF. We do not appreciate a government who uses the IDF as a chessboard for their political gain.
But some who fought and lost colleagues call the movement a slap in the face.
As President Joe Biden prepares to leave office next week, he remains insistent that his one-term presidency has made strides in restoring American credibility on the world stage and has proved that the US remains an indispensable partner around the globe.
Thanks to our administration, the United States is winning the worldwide competition. Compared to 4 years ago, America is stronger. Our alliances are stronger. Our adversaries and competitors are weaker.
Biden's foreign policy achievements will be overshadowed, at least for now, by the possibility that voters might give control back to Donald Trump and his protectionist views.
Now, nearly three years later, Putin has failed to achieve any of his strategic objectives. He has failed thus far to subjugate Ukraine, failed to break the unity of NATO, and failed to make large territorial gains. Think about it. Affordable high-speed internet, so much more.
Biden also criticized certain countries working closely together.
Major authoritarian states are aligning more closely with one another. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea. But that's more out of weakness than out of strength. So as the new administration begins, the United States is in a fundamentally stronger position with respect to these countries than we were 4 years ago.
Well, there is more work to do. Our technology is artificial intelligence.
Next week, Donald Trump is set to take office. His views on the war in Ukraine are starkly different than Biden's, and until his inauguration, there's no way of telling what the next 4 years of US foreign policy towards Ukraine would look like.
Thank you for sparing your precious time. This is Amir Shakil. Have a good life. Bye-bye.